Hello everyone, this is Mitesh from Coding Ninjas. Welcome to our new video on web development tutorial. So in this video, we are going to make a small website using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So this is what our website is going to look like, and let me give you a demonstration of this website. So let's say we have written 5 in this input box, and let me increase the font as well. So we have written 5 in this input box, and when we press on start, so a timer will go from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and it will end at 0. So this website might look simpler to you, but to implement the JavaScript, to add the CSS and to write the HTML, so it will take time to understand. And in this video, we are going to look how we can do this, how we can make this timer, how we can center this box, how we are able to implement JavaScript such that we are setting a timer and also we are changing a value of our HTML. So this is just a basic video, and we are also going to explain in depth about HTML, CSS and JavaScript further down in our videos. So stay tuned for that, and for that you might consider to subscribe to Coding Ninjas YouTube channel. So let us begin with our video now. So let's start building a website, and before we build a website, let's just first try to visualize our website, how a website is going to look, what are the things that we are going to implement in HTML, what we are going to implement in CSS and what we are going to implement in JavaScript. So let's just visualize our website first. The shape. So let's say this is our web page for now. So let's say this is our web page, and what we have seen, or let's just try to visualize something that what we want to build in our website. So we want to build something like this, that there should be a box in between, and that box should have something in it. So the box should have initially the heading. Let's say the heading is timer. Let's say the heading is timer. So after timer, let's say we want to show the numbers or show the time. So let's say we want 2 boxes for that. 2 boxes like this. So now we are only visualizing it, and we are just understanding how we want to build our website. So firstly we want our heading, then we want our timer, after that we want our input field and our button. So what is going to happen in our website, that we will enter a time, and after that we are going to click on start. So after that our timer is going to start and it will end at 0, and after 0 it is going to give us a warning that our time has been ended. So this is it, and this is we want to build. So now let's try to visualize it in terms of HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So firstly, HTML used in this website is very less. So this timer is HTML. This 2 numbers, these 2 numbers are going to be of HTML. This input box and this button is going to be HTML. So this is the HTML used. Now let's talk about CSS. So CSS would be, let's say we just want to align it. We just want to let's say make this box in the center. We just want to fit this box in the center. This will be done by CSS. We want to align these 3 things. So this will be done by CSS, and we want to align this numbers such that the minute number is on the left and the seconds number is on the right. So this would be done by CSS. Or let's say initially we don't want minutes or second, we only want second. So our timer will run something like this, there are seconds, let's say 60 seconds, and this will go on in a reverse manner, and whenever they reach 00, they're going to hit an alert that our time is up. Okay, so we are going to build this, and after this, let's just discuss about some JavaScript as well that we are going to implement in this. So JavaScript, what JavaScript will do is JavaScript will take this input, and JavaScript will start the timer from that given input. After that, JavaScript is going to change this number after every 1 second. So JavaScript is going to change that, and also after changing, JavaScript is going to show that to us as well. And after the time reaches 00, JavaScript is going to show us an alert as well. So this is the thing. Now let's just start building our website with HTML first. So in HTML, what we want is, so let's just discuss about HTML now. So in HTML, this would be our body. This would be our body, and after this, let's say this is a div. So what is a div? Now that we are talking about HTML and we are talking about div, so what is a div? So div is a kind of like a section, but in HTML. So this is a section. So that's why we can call it a div. And inside this, let's say I want to store this timer heading into a div as well. So this could be a div as well. And this number could be in div as well. And both of these things, input and the button, both of them could be in a div as well. So inside this div, we have 3 divs. So this is it about HTML, and now let's write HTML. So now we are on our VS Code and we are inside Coding Ninjas folder. So till now, I hope you have installed VS Code and you are inside a folder Coding Ninjas. And if you are not, please open Coding Ninjas folder. You can see that we have an open folder option here. Using this, you can open any folder. Now let's just create new file and name it index.js. Now let's create a new file and name it index.html. Inside this, we are going to write our HTML. So now when we were talking, I told you that we have a body. So we would have a body, and inside body we are going to have our div. So this div is called a box. So this div would be called as a box. So we can name the divs later when I'll be explaining you CSS, about class, about ID, then we can name our div. But let's initially make a div only. So we have made a div, and now inside a div we want 3 more divs. So this is a div, so this is going to be our box. Okay, so this is going to be our box, this is going to be our heading, this is going to be our timer, and this is going to be our button and input. So you can see that I'm writing HTML here, and I have explained about HTML a little bit in the previous video as well. But you're not familiar with HTML, so let me explain you what I'm doing here if you cannot connect till now. So what happens in HTML is, like, HTML is quite simple. So whenever we write HTML, we just have to enclose whatever we're writing inside an opening and closing tag. So let's say this is an HTML tag, opening HTML tag, and this is an closing HTML tag. So whatever we write in between both of these tags is going to be like treated as an HTML, and whatever we write inside body is going to be treated as body, and whatever we write inside this section. So section, here we are calling section as a div. So whatever we write inside this div would be treated as a div. So let's write something inside this div and try to visualize it. So let's say I have written here Coding Ninjas. Just to give you an example, like just to connect with each other, I'm giving you this example. And in the first lecture, when I told you and when I explained you how to install VS Code, we have installed one extension as well, and that extension was live server. So now let's get familiar with live server as well. So we are in our index.html file. What we are going to do is we are going to right click, and then we are going to click on open with live server. When we click on open with live server, this is going to open this page. So in this page, what is now going to happen is, let's say I'm making changes in my code here. I'm writing something, and as soon as I save this file, you can see that changes are made on our website as well. We don't have to refresh our website to see the changes. As soon as we save our HTML file, the live changes are going to show in our website as well whenever our website is live. So what we are doing is we are just basically making our website live on our local computer. So this extension is very useful. We can avoid like refreshing our website again and again just to see changes. This is going to live update our website. So we have done this, we have written all of the HTML, and now let's write some content as well. So we will write our heading in this div or in this section. So let's write our heading, and let's say our heading is timer. And inside this div, we are going to write our timer. So our timer will, let's say, end at 00. So that's why we are just writing 00 here. Or we can write it as 0000 as well. And at the end, in this div, we are going to write our button and input. So let's write our input. So we can write our input, and this says input text. So what is this? So input is kind of an input field. Whatever we write, we can and whenever we submit something, we can use this input, and we can use that somewhere using JavaScript or in HTML as well. So another thing about input is we can enclose this input in a form tag. So let's make a form, and inside this form, let's put this input tag. So I have made a form, and inside this form I have put the input tag. And why I am doing this? Because this form is going to help us later in JavaScript. Alright, but let's not just go further, and let's not talk about form yet. Let's just go with input only. So I have written input. After that, let's make a submit button. So what we have to do is we have to make a button, and that button is going to say submit, not submit, start. So this is a start button, and what we are saying is whenever we click on start, we want our timer to just start. And as you can see now, this website is not looking quite right now because it is lacking mainly CSS and the functionality as well. So we are going step by step, and we are seeing how the website is going to improve while we are writing HTML, then CSS, then JavaScript, and why all three of these things are important and they are interconnected to each other. Because without HTML, CSS is useless. Without CSS, HTML is useless, and without JavaScript, both of them are useless. Or there can be some cases where HTML and CSS are kind of a use where we don't have an interactive website. But HTML and CSS are the base, and to add functionality to our website, we must add JavaScript to our website. Now what we are going to do is we are going to write our CSS, and before start writing our CSS, let me introduce few more terms. So one term is class and one term is ID. So what I'm saying is we have a class. So inside HTML, we have a lot of tags. So what we can do is we can name this tag as we can add a class in this tag, or we can give this tag an ID. And we can let's say I'm giving a class as heading, or I'm giving it a ID as, so I'm giving this an ID as, let's say, input. So what this is going to help us is, this is going to help us further on when we are writing CSS, when we are working with JavaScript, because JavaScript is directly going to look at this class heading, and that is going to pick that up. And let's say we want to make some changes in heading or in input or in timer. So using JavaScript, and inside JavaScript we uses class to get that element, and we can make changes. So we will understand this when once we start writing CSS, why class and ID are important. So for now, let's just give them class and ID. And let me show you in HTML as well that this is not going to change any HTML. So let's say I want to give it a class as box, because this is a box. We have enclosed everything inside a box. And I want to give this, so let's give this an ID as heading, and let's give our timer ID as timer. So let's give this div an ID as form, and let's give this input also again an ID as input, and let's give this button ID as button. So we have written some CSS, like this is kind of like starting of CSS. Now using this IDs and classes, we are going to add CSS to our website. So let's look into that. Now let us start understanding and start writing CSS for our website. So to write CSS, first we have to like add a CSS file. So we can do that in the heading tag. So let's make a head tag. Inside the head tag, we are going to link our CSS file. So we are going to link our CSS file. So you can see that we are linking our CSS file, but we have not made a CSS file yet. So let's you can see that in the left hand side there is an explorer icon. Let's click on that. Let's make a new document, and let's name is style.css, and we are going to store all of our CSS in this file. So we have made our style.css. Now let's just start with some basics thing. So let's first talk about body. So we can write CSS in a notation like this, and whatever like we want to put CSS on or style on, we write that name, and then we open and close our parentheses, and inside the parentheses we write whatever the properties we want. So let's say I want to give this body some color, right? So some background. So I want to give background color as aqua. So as soon as I save, you can see the color changes here. And let's say like this font is pretty boring, right? This font is pretty boring. I want to change the font as well. So let's add font family, and let's say sans serif. You can see now the font looks kind of cool now, and like whenever we increase the size of this font, you would be able to see the change of font, like it is pretty noticeable. The old font was pretty boring. So we are using now font family sans serif. So if you have used Microsoft Word or like any other document, you know that there is a little icon of font family. So font family is just basically the look or the writing of the font, whatever we are writing. So we have done these two things, and there is another way of adding color, that is background image and linear gradient. Let me explain you that as well. So let's first write background image, and inside this let's write linear gradient. Let's write from red to blue, and let's save it. So you can see that in our website this so there is a linear gradient from red to blue, and like the color is transitioning. So it kind of looks good than the previous view, but we can also improve this view as well. So let me explain you what is happening. So by using background image, I'm saying that we want to set the background something. And here I'm saying that I want to set the background to a linear gradient. So this texture which is going from red color to blue color, and like there's a transition between them, so this is named as linear gradient, and I have written I want it from red to blue. We can change this colors as well. So let's say, let's hover on this red icon, and let's hover on this red icon, and let's just pick a color that we want. So we have picked the color, and let's save it. You can say that see that now this color has been changed. And let's say we want to change the blue color as well, so let's do that as well and save it. You can see now that it definitely looks better than the previous background color. If we compare it to this, and if we compare this to this background image definitely looks better, and like adding such a little CSS is beautifying our website so much. So after body, let's focus on the box. So this box. So what we want is, we want the box to go at center. So how can we move our box to center? So like there is a kind of a way to move our box to center. Let me explain you that. So let's say this is a div, and it has some content, and we want to move this div anywhere inside our website. So before doing that, let me show you the div as well. So what we have is, here is a box. So let's do one thing. Let's take this box class. So this box is a class. So we can access the box class by writing dot and then the name of that class, which is box. And let's give it a background color of aqua for now. So you can see that this is a box, right? This is a div. And we want to move this div and also increase the height of this div a little bit and decrease the width of this div a little bit. So let's first work on height and width. So there's another thing that that I want you to tell is that in a website, the total height, the height from this top to bottom is called 100 viewport height. And let's say we want to change our height to 70%. So either we can write height as 70%. So this is 70%, or we could have written height to 70 viewport height. So what is the difference between percentage and viewport height? So percentage means that box is currently contained inside body, right? Box is currently contained inside body. So box is going to consume a total height of 70%, which body has. And luckily in our case, body is consuming 100% viewport height, or 100% height, or 100 viewport height. So in this case, if we write 100 viewport height or 100%, it doesn't change really much. But for the convention, let's write 100 viewport height. By this way, you will be introduced to one more new term, which is viewport height. So this is viewport height. And let's change the width as well. And I want to change the width as 70 viewport width. 70 viewport width. Viewport height as well as width. Okay, so we have made our box, and another thing we want is to move this box to the center of our website. So what we do is, we give this box position as relative. Why relative? Because we want this box to relate from the outer box, and we give a position to this box as absolute. Absolute. So using code, let me explain this to you. It would be more better to visualize here. So we have a body here, and what I'm saying is, let's give body a position of relative, and let's give box the position of absolute, and let's also write top 50%. Okay, so top I've written 50, let's give it 50%. So you can see the box has been moved down by 50% from top. because we have given this box position as absolute and the outer box is relative. So this box is going to move downwards 50% from the outer box, from this relative box, and in our case the relative box is the body only. So we have moved our box to downwards to 50%, and we also want to move it to like we want our box to move from left to 50% as well. So when we do this, you can see that like there is kind of a problem. We wanted the box to go in center rather than one of its corner to go in center. So because of this, this is kind of an error. We can solve this by a few ways. So either we can decrease this by, let's say, either 25% and this too with 25%, or like this is not aligning properly, so we can give it like 15%, or like we can try which value satisfies us the most. So you can see that if we give this box, so currently it is looking at this corner, its top left corner. So this top left corner is 15% from top and 15% from left as well. If we move our increase or decrease the size of our browser, the box will remain in the center only. So this is the beauty of CSS. So you can see that now the CSS, because of CSS, our HTML is looking like so good, and we have not added that much CSS till now. Let's do one more thing. Let's give this some other color rather than aqua. Let's give it some dark gray color. So this is like kind of a black. So I have given this dark gray color, and you can give any color of your choice. So after this, let me introduce you border as well. So we can write border and we can give some width to border. Let's say I've given 10 pixel, but you can see like there is no border that is appearing. To make border appear, we have to write few more things as well, like solid, to show that the border is solid. And we know that that is pretty obvious that why we have to write border as solid, because there are different kind of borders as well. I'm now using dotted border. So you can see that this border is dotted, and by default if we say border and if we add 5 pixel, so it by default takes no border. So we have to write solid here. Okay, but we can see that our box is not looking very good when we give it a border. Another property of border is that we can make this curve. So from the edges we can make the border curve, and to do that what we can say is, we can say border radius, and we can add any radius. So let's say I'm writing 15 pixel, and as soon as I save, you can see that this border is now curved from the edges. And let's try to increase this as well. Let's give it 25 pixels. So now the border is getting curved. And another beautiful thing about this is, let's say now I just want to remove border, like I'm not liking the border pretty much. So let's remove border and let's save. You can see that the border is removed, but I have still returned border radius. That's why this box is like getting curved from the edges. So we have added border radius. Now let's talk about this thing. The content. We want to move this content to middle as well. So do that, what we can do is, let's just get to that only. So before we go further, let me explain you one very important function, and that is flexbox or flex containers. So what happens inside flex is we define the parent as flex, and all of its children become flexible. So now the next question is, what is parent and what are its children? So let's look at our code, our HTML. So what we have done here is, we have made a class box, and inside this, direct child of this box are heading, timer and form. So this box has some direct childs. So we can say that this box is a parent, and this box is its child, this box again is its direct child, and this box is its direct child. So currently we are only talking about direct child. So this box has 3 direct child. right? So this box contains 3 direct child. Now what I'm saying is flex is going to make all of this direct child flexible. So to get the picture more clearly, let us first make all of these 3 boxes distinguishable. So what we can do is we can either give them a background. So let's give them a background. So box, heading and timer. So box, sorry, heading, comma, we have one div with heading, one with as so one div with id as timer, comma timer, and we have another div with id as a form, and what I'm saying is let's give them a background color of aqua. So we have given them a background color of aqua, as well as give them border as well, just to make them a little bit distinguished. Give them border as solid. So you can see that all of we have 3 boxes currently. Now what I'm saying is this box is its parent box. Now let's make this box flexible, right? So you can see that as soon as we make this box flexible, like the rows have now turned into columns, right? The rows are now turned into columns, and if we write here flex direction row, sorry, flex direction column, wait a second, why is it not happening? Flex direction row, what the, I guess we write here, right? Yeah, flex direction row, yeah. Okay, so let's continue now. So if we give this flex direction column, so now these 3 divs are in column, or basically we can see that this divs are in rows. So it works kind of opposites, like this are 3 rows, and flex direction column is going to give them like this kind of appearance. And if we change it to row, you can see that like they are now one after another, and before, when we have written here column, they were one before another, like top to down, and another was from left to right. So these are 2 kind of flex, and the beauty about flex is that, let's say I write here align items center, right? So you can see that I have aligned items center, and all of these boxes are now in the center. You can like see that, and let me show you before how it was looking. So it was looking like this, and now when we are aligning item centers, what we are potentially doing is we are like removing the extra space. So previously we had some extra space in left and in right, so we are saying that we only want the main content and we want to move it to center. So that's why we can do it, and we are aligning items to the center. So we have aligned item center, and I hope like the name give its definition as well, like we are aligning items to the center. There's another thing called justify items, and we also want to justify to center, sorry, not item, justify content. So we can do justify content center as well, and you can see that all of those content is going in center. So what currently justify is doing is, justify is let's say we have an xy axis, and let me make that axis here. So we have this axis and this axis. So this axis is align axis, and this axis is justify axis. So whenever we are saying that align items to center, it is aligning in this direction to the center, and we are saying justify center, it is aligning in this direction to the center. So this is the difference between align and justify. Like this is the most important part about Flexbox. So using this, you can play around. Using Flexbox, you can play around and understand it. The main way to learn Flexbox is writing a lot of code in Flexbox, right? So you can see now we have done this, and now if we just remove the background color and the border, so it looks something like this. Like, it is not looking bad, but we want to improve it further. So currently our heading is looking a little bit small, so let's increase the font size of our heading. So let's say font size, and let's make the font size to 80 pixel. So now our heading is kind of looking good, and let's also change the color of heading as well. So let's change it to white. So again, it is looking good. We can do another thing, and that is we can also change the letter spacing in between all of these letters. So we can write letter spacing, and let's change that to 5 pixel, and let's see the result. So after 5 pixels, it is looking like this, and let's increase more letter spacing a little bit more. So we have like changed it to 8 pixel, and again it is looking fine. Let's do one more thing. Let's make this letter bold. So we can do that by writing font weight. So we can increase its font weight. So let's say we want the font weight to 400. We can do that, and let's say we want the font weight to 900. And when we save, you can see the difference that 900 is looking like this, and when we change it to 100, it looks like very thinner. So you can choose according to yourself. Currently in our video, I'm giving it a font weight of 900. It is looking good. So there are a few more noticeable things, and that is like the margin in between all of these three divs, and we want to increase that margin. So we can do that by writing here margin and adding some margin. So let's say 10 pixel. So now heading is having 10 pixel margin with everything, right? So with let's say top, bottom, left hand side, right hand side, so heading is having a margin of 10 pixel. We can do another thing besides heading. Let's pick the timer. Okay, so let's say we have timer here, and we want it to have margin of 15 pixel. And when we save, you can see that this is now having margin with top as well as bottom, and both with 15 pixel. Another way of looking at this is let's give it more margin, so you can see now more clearly that this has gone up, and this has gone like below. So there's a margin of 50 pixel from top and 50 pixel from bottom. And let me introduce you developer tools as well. So again, we right click on our website, we click on inspect. So you can see this icon here. When we click on inspect, there's kind of this icon here. So let's hover on our website and let's see what it does. So you can see that we can see all of the divs. So this div is our box div, and you can see that when I'm hovering on body, it is showing that this is body. When I'm hovering on our heading, it is showing that this is heading, and it is kind of showing the properties as well. And when I'm hovering on this div, so the timer div, you can see that it is showing properties as well. And I think you can look carefully that there is also written margin as 50 pixel. So I guess let me increase the font size just so that you can see more clearly. So I guess is it visible now? Because like there is written 50 pixel as margin. So let me bring back to the default size. Alright, so we have added margin. Now let's do some more thing, and with timer, then we are going to look at the input box and the button as well. So let's increase this font size as well. So we're going to make this font size as 50 pixel. So I guess, yeah, this looks good, and change its color as well. So we're going to change it to white. So this is not white, we can write white here. So yeah, it kind of looks good, and you can change color according to your preference as well. So currently I am giving it a white color, and let's just give it a kind of a red shade, the timer. So we can hover here and we can like choose the shade and then we can save. So you can see now the timer has kind of a red color. So let's increase the font size of timer as well. So let's just give it 70 pixel. So it looks good now. And now let's work on our input and our button. So let's go to input. So you can see that this input now has a border, like by default this input has a border. So let me close the developer tools. This input now has a border. So let's try to remove border now, border none. So you can see that there's like a small change in our input. Previously it was having a black border by default, so we have like removed that border. We can do another thing. We can add border radius as, let's say, let's give it a border radius of 10 pixel. So we can give input border radius as well. Let's play with button as well. So let's give button a border radius as well, so of 10 pixel. 10 pixel is fine. So button is now also having a border radius. So let's remove border of button as well. So we have removed border of button. Currently both of these are like kind of like looking very small. So let's increase their height as well. So let's give them a height of currently 10 pixel. So 10 pixel is very less. 30 pixel. 30 pixel is like very large. 25 pixel or 20 pixel. 23 pixel. Alright, so 23 pixels look fine. And let's give the same height to button as well. So yeah, and there is another thing we can add, and that is called padding. So let's say I'm giving it a padding of to like make it notice what padding is doing. So padding is like kind of adding the extra space. So you can see that padding has added extra space, and if we like remove height, this would look fine. Yeah, so this is like kind of looking like this, and let's give this padding as well, 15 pixel, and remove the height. So rather than giving padding of 15 pixel, let's give it a little lesser, 10 pixel, 5 pixel, sorry. Yeah, 5 pixel is fine. So now that we are talking about padding, there are two types of padding, or basically four types of padding. So padding from top, padding from left, padding from right, and padding from bottom. So we can see that in this button, like from top and bottom, the padding is looking fine. So if we look closely to this button, padding from top and from bottom, it is looking fine, but padding from left and right, we are not satisfied with that much padding, and we want to increase the padding. So to do that, what we can do is we can go on button, we can say that padding left, and let's make it 10 pixel or 15 pixel for now. Then let's say padding right, and let's also change this to 15 pixel. So yeah, now you can see that this is now kind of like looking good. And let's give both of them margin as well. So margin of 5 pixel to input, and margin of 5 pixel to the button. So now they have like good amount of spacing, and like this is looking fine. So before going to JavaScript, let's add one more thing, and that is like color to the button. And also let me introduce you to one more feature called hover. So button, you can see that button doesn't really looks like button. So because whenever we hover on button, like the cursor is not changing to something of a pointer or something else. So what I'm saying is, if we write here cursor pointer in button, so now you can see that whenever I am hovering on button, like there is a pointer kind of thing appearing, and previously this was just like normal cursor only. So we want it to have a cursor of pointer. Okay, so let's give it a background color of let's give it red, right? And let's change this red as well to a lighter color. So I guess this color looks good. Okay, so this color looks good. And what is this RGB thing? So I'll explain to you this also as well. Like whenever we are changing color, it is like changed to some RGB value. So what is RGB? I'll explain to you that as well later on. But currently we can look at button and I think it is looking fine. We can also change the color of the font in the button, and let's give it white and let's see. So it is looking good. Let's give it some font weight as well. So font weight as 900. Yeah. So button is also like kind of looking good, and I was telling you about another functionality called hover. So let's say I'm giving hover to the button. So what we can do is we can say background color as white, button hover. Okay, I've done this. All right. So background color as white in button hover. So let's just hover on the button and look for ourselves what is going to happen. So as soon as we hover, the background color is now changing to white. So let's do one thing. Besides white, let's give it a little bit darker shade of the previously chosen color. So you can see that there is a subtle change in the button when we are hovering on button. Okay, but this is like kind of very fast. The color is changing very fast, and we want that whatever this color is, and whenever we are hovering, we want the color to change slowly. So for that we can do one more thing. We can say that transition all, let's say 1 second. So you can see now I'm hovering, the color is changing slowly, right? The color is changing slowly. So what this transition is doing, so whatever we are changing while hovering, so all of those changes are now being made in 1 second, right? So like they will kind of transit from this state to the new given state in 1 second. So this is transition, and I guess now our CSS is looking good. So this is what our website will look on a bigger scale. And the thing about our website is, so we have worked in percentages. So let's say we decrease the size of our browser window, still the website is looking good. So this will work for like bigger screens as well as smaller screens as well. Now let's work on JavaScript and let's make this timer working now. Okay, so now let's start writing our JavaScript and start understanding JavaScript a little bit. So for writing JavaScript, we are going to make a file called script.js. So script.js is going to contain all of our JavaScript and we are going to run that. Now we have to connect script.js to the index.html file. So in previous video also I have explained that we always write the script.js link or always connect the script.js file at the end of our body. So at the end of our body we are going to say that script, and we are going to give it a source. So source as script.js. So now if we write any JavaScript code here, so previously also I have explained you like let's say we want to console something to the log, and what is log again, I'm going to show that also. So it is kind of a when we click on inspect, so the console shows up. So before that, let us write some code. Let's say hello, and let's go to our website. Let's click on inspect and let's go to console. So this is called console, and like this is very important tool for developers like us, for web developers like us. And you can see that hello is appearing here in the console. So this is the power of JavaScript. And let's say I want to create a variable of name X and a value 5. Now I just want to console the value of this variable X. So let's do that as well. So you can see that our website is running live. That's why whatever we are doing changes here, the website is refreshing itself and showing those changes on our website side. So we have consoled the value of this variable 5. Okay, so now we have done that. We can also do one amazing thing using JavaScript. So let's say we can store something in our variable. Let's say I just want to store the value of timer in our variable. So we can do that by accessing the element from our HTML. So we can do that by using document.getElement.id. And if we look at our HTML, the timer has an ID of timer. So if we write a timer here, then that means that we should have gotten the timer now. So let's just try to console log it. So in JavaScript, if we are confused about anything, what this thing is doing, simplest way of finding out what we are doing is to just console log whatever we are doing. So now let's look at our web. So now we can look in our console that it is showing us this div timer. Okay, so we can do another thing. We can console log the text content as well. So now you can see that text content is showing as 00. So this is the text content of a timer. So we have done this. Now let's try to access some more contents of our HTML. So we want a button. So button as equals to document.getElementById and button. Also we want our input field. So let's name it as input equals to document.getId_by_element input. And if you look at our HTML file, we have already given this IDs as input and button. Now let's just try to console log button and input as well. So button and input, and see on our website. So you can see that it is showing us this button and details about button, similar for input and details. And if we try to expand this, it will show us details about input. So we can also try to access the content of them, but initially we don't want that. So we have done this. Let us do another thing now. So let us say that we want to run a timer. Okay, so let's just try to run a timer. So in JavaScript, we can run a timer by writing set interval. So what set interval does is set intervals runs a timer. Now the thing about set interval is it does not run timer in let's say our normal timer works in 1 second. After each second it gets updated, but set interval does not get updated after each and every second. We have to provide the amount of time as well that we want after, let's say, 5 seconds, the timer to get updated. So we are talking about timer, but before, I guess we have talked about functions as well in previous video, but I am revising that as well. So let's say I have a function. So function x. So we have a function like this. Okay, and inside this we want to just console.log hello. So we have this. Now what does set interval requires? So set interval requires a function. So a function x and also the time. So it takes times in millisecond. So 1000 milliseconds equals to a single second. Now if we look here, it is printing hello in every second. So if we increase the size, you can see that these values are increasing after each and every second because it is printing hello after every second. So the thing is now how to stop the timer. Okay, so how to stop the timer? So to stop the timer, we have to write here, we have to clear interval. So to do that, we should have an instance of our set interval function call. So we can do that by writing this var interval equals to. So let's do another thing. Another way of writing a function is we can just directly write here. So we can see that we have written function like this, but we can also write it like this, function, and let's make it like this and this. So in this function we have not given any name, and we just have directly returned the function in the argument. So this is in JavaScript, this is allowed it. We can just directly write the function in argument, because this function call requires a function. That's why instead of passing a function, we have directly written a function in the argument. Now what I'm saying is we can directly console.log hello from here, and let's see our website and let's refresh it. So it is consoling.log hello. Yeah, it's consoling.log hello. But our question was to stop this timer. So let's make another thing where x equals to 0, right? And inside this function, let's increment our x. And let's say that if x is equals to 5, a clear interval, and let's provide it this interval only. So so let's just first see that how many times it prints hello. So it is printing hello a total number of 5 times. We can also print the value of x. So let's refresh it now. So it is printing 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. After each second it is printing a value. So now let us understand what we are doing here. So what we are potentially doing here is we have created a value x, and after that we are incrementing that value x inside our function. So after each second the value of x is going to get incremented, and I am checking that if this value is equals to 5, that means that I have printed it 5 times, then clear interval. So what does clear interval means, and why we have written this interval inside this clear interval? So clear interval is saying that please clear this interval, or please stop this set interval function. So that's why we have a function called name as clear interval, and we are doing this. So we have seen about set interval. So this is kind of a timer. Now let's try to understand another thing, and that is let's say I'm clicking on this start and I want something to happen. So we can do that by setting a function on the button. So let's say I'm setting button dot add event listener. So event listener is going to listen for event. So what does it does? Let's say I want to listen for click. So it is going to look for click in this function in the button. So whenever I click on button, it is going to execute a function. So let's say in that function I'm writing console.log clicked. So let's see now, whenever we click on the button, like clicked has been click is getting consoled. So this is the power of event listener. Now let's just try to change this a little bit. So what we are doing is we have added an event listener to a button, and now what we want is whenever we click on our button, we want to take value from the input. So we can do that. Let's first see the value of input and store the value of input as well. So var equals to input dot value. Sorry, var x equals to input dot value. Yeah, we have to give a name as well. So var x equals to input dot value, and let's console that as well. Console.log x. So now when I'm clicking on the start button, it is not consoling anything because the input is empty. Let's write something in input and let's just console it. So whenever I'm clicking on start, it is printing the value which is being in input. So let's say I have written here A, B, C, D, and then I press on start. So it has printed A, B, C, D. So what it is doing is it is taking value from input, and then we are consoling log that value. So whenever I'm clicking on the button, it is taking value from input and then it is consoling that to our console. Right, so but what we want is we want to take this value, we want to, let's say, take the x value, and rather than printing it, we want to start a timer and we want to change this value. So let's try that as well. And what I'm saying is I want to change the value, or so the value of input. So input dot value equals to x. So let's see, can we do this or not? So currently it has no value, let's say 11. So we are not able to change the value of the timer. Sorry, we don't want to change the value of input. We want to change the value of timer, right? So let's do 12 and press start. So we are not able to change the value of timer because to change this value, so this is a text. So this should be named as text content rather than value. Now let's try it. So I have pressed start and the text content of our timer is now nothing, because we were having nothing in our input. Let's try 12 here and let's press on start. So you can see that this timer has now become 12. Now the main thing is left is to make this timer go from 12 to 0. Now that we have our value 12 and we have also seen the set interval function here. So this was kind of a timer. So what we can do is we can run that timer, and inside this, let's say that let's just copy this function. Let me comment this out. And what I'm doing inside the interval is I'm decreasing the value of x, and I'm seeing that if x is equals to 0, clear interval. So let's do that now. Let's say here 5, and yeah, so we can see that we are consoling log 5 4 3 2 1 0. So it is going till 0, but we also want to change the value of our timer as well. So inside this, let's write timer dot text content equals to x. Now let's try it. So we have written 100 here. Let's try. So you can see that the timer is going down. So the timer from 100 is very large. So let's try something very less. So let's say I have written here 3, and let's try to run this timer. So there's kind of an error. Let me refresh it. Yeah. So let's we have written here 3, and when we start it, it is going from 3 to 1 and 0. So the timer has now ended. Okay, so this is it. And if we have written anything else, let's say 10, and we have started the timer, so it will go like 10 9 8 7 6 5 4 3 2 1, and after each second the timer is getting decreased. So this is it for this video, and by now if you have not yet checked the previous videos of the web development playlist, so please check that as well. And more further videos are going to come up, and we are going to explain in depth about HTML, CSS, JavaScript and other frameworks as well. So stay tuned for that, and for that you might even consider subscribing to Coding Ninjas YouTube channel, because upcoming videos are going to be about a full web development course as well as HTML, CSS in depth with HTML, a single video in which we are going to get in depth with HTML, and we are going to get in depth with CSS, JavaScript and many more. So yeah, this is it, and thank you.